To the world, they were just my grandparents. To me, they were my entire universe. But when I discovered the secret they hid for decades, every memory turned into a lie. But then, I made sure their silence would echo through generations. To the world, they were just my grandparents. To me, they were everything I had. My roots, my shelter, my whole existence. People always say love comes in many forms. Some say it comes from parents. Some say it comes from soulmates. But for me, it came in the form of two weathered hands and wrinkled faces who held me when the world had no name for me. I was 3 when my parents died, or at least, that's what they told me. A car crash. Quick, painless, gone. That was the version I was given. And as a child, who was I to question it? Nani used to wrap me in her cotton sares, her smell of sandalwood and turmeric so familiar, it became my lullaby. Nana would walk me to school every day, never saying much, but always watching, always near, like a shadow that protected, not haunted. They gave me everything: books, warmth, festivals, even lullabies in a voice so tired it cracked. But I loved those cracks. They felt like home. People used to say, "You're so lucky. They took you in like their own." I would smile and nod, my chest swelling with pride. Because in a world full of brokenness, I believed I had found something whole. But there were always tiny moments. Moments I buried because I didn't want to ruin the perfect story I was told. Like how Nani would stiffen whenever I asked about my mother. Or how Nana once burned a letter before I could read the name on it. Or how, every time I asked to visit their hometown, they changed the subject or suddenly, not feel well. Still, I believed. I trusted them. Because love, real love, doesn't lie. Right? I remember the day I turned 12. They made my favorite, gulab jamun, warm and sticky, melting on my tongue. I remember Nani's hands shaking as she placed a small box in my lap. Inside, there was a necklace. Simple. A delicate chain with a small gold pendant, an engraved name. Noor. That was your mother's, Nani whispered. I stared at the name, somehow foreign yet familiar. It felt like hearing a song I'd forgotten I knew. She was kind. Nani continued softly, her eyes distant. Soft-hearted. Too soft for this world. Then she looked at me, her eyes filling with something I couldn't name. She loved you more than anything. That was the first time she ever spoke of her. And the last. Even as a child, I felt the contradiction. If she loved me so much, why did I never see her? Why did no one else ever talk about her? Why did I feel like her name was a ghost, floating between these walls? But I never asked again. Because they were all I had. And I couldn't afford to lose even a lie. Nana used to say, "Truth isn't always kind, Betty. Sometimes, love means protecting someone from it." I didn't understand what that meant back then. Now, it rings in my ears like a curse. Because the truth they protected me from was the truth that would break everything I believed in. Every smile, every bedtime story, every tear they wiped from my cheeks. They weren't just my caretakers. They were the authors of my story. And I never realized. They were writing fiction. To the world, they were just my grandparents. But to me, they were my entire universe. And I was ready to spend my life defending that love. Until the day I found the letter. The one they never meant for me to see. The one that shattered the glass I had mistaken for a mirror. But that's a story for another night. Because the moment before truth is revealed is the last breath of innocence. And mine was already running out. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special. Just an ordinary school afternoon. I came home early, our teacher had fallen sick, and we were dismissed before noon. When I walked in, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Nani and Nana weren't in the kitchen. The pressure cooker wasn't hissing. The radio wasn't humming some old Kishore Kumar song like it always did. Instead, I heard whispers. faint, tense, coming from the bedroom. I shouldn't have listened. I know. But something in me, the part that had stopped asking questions years ago, suddenly leaned in. She's growing up, Ram. Nani's voice was trembling. She's already asking too many questions. She's going to find out eventually. Then Nana cut her off. Let her believe what we told her. It's better that way. Safer. Safer? I stepped back. The floor creaked. The whispering stopped. I ran to my room before they could see me, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I didn't understand what they meant, at least not then. But the seed had been planted. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. Their words kept playing in my head, twisted and cold. So I did what I had never dared to do before. I searched. It started with a drawer, then a trunk, then a rusted wooden box under their bed. It was locked, but the latch was old. I jimmied it open with a hairpin. Inside were dozens of letters, faded photographs, a small, tattered diary, and at the very bottom, folded neatly, sealed in an envelope yellowed by time, was a letter. Addressed to me. My name. My real name. Written in handwriting I had never seen before. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dearest Noor, if you're reading this, then I'm already gone. Maybe forever. Maybe just far away from the version of me you knew. But know this, whatever they've told you, it's not the truth. They took you from me. They said I wasn't fit. That I was unstable. That I would ruin you. But I was your mother, Noor. I was your light, your safety, your world. And you were mine. The rest of the letter was soaked in smudged ink and time-worn sorrow. But I didn't need more. My mother was alive. And my grandparents, the people I called my saviors, had taken me from her. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. The world I believed in cracked in one vicious second. The photos, some showed a younger version of Nani and Nana with a woman who looked just like me. Eyes too wide. Smile too forced. I turned the diary's cover. It was hers. My real mother. Her thoughts, raw, aching, broken, leapt from every page. They call me mad. But all I wanted was to raise my daughter with love. All I wanted was to hold her when she cried. They said I was too emotional, that I couldn't provide. But I saw the way Nani looked at me, with pity first, then disgust. Ram said he'd help me get better. But they stole my child. My Noor. I couldn't read more. My throat closed up. My heart shattered in ways I didn't know it could. All those years, all those stories, all those I love yous were built on a lie, on the back of a mother's pain. I looked at the necklace, her name engraved across my skin like a scar I had never noticed before. Noor. It wasn't just a name. It was her cry, her memory, her truth. And now it was mine too. The next morning, I stared at them, Nani serving tea, Nana reading the paper like nothing had happened. And I smiled. For the first time, I smiled with rage. Because now I knew. They didn't raise me. They stole me. And they thought I'd never find out. They thought they had buried the truth deep enough. But they forgot something important. Even buried things have roots. And the deeper the roots go, the harder they are to cut. They had kept the truth hidden for years. But I wasn't going to let it die in the dark. Not anymore. Because what they took from her, what they took from me, I was going to take back. Piece by piece. For 3 days, I said nothing. I laughed when they laughed. I cried during our evening Ramayana stories. I hugged them when they said, "We're so proud of the girl you've become." And all the while, the letters sat beneath my pillow like a ticking clock. The diary hid beneath my textbooks. And my silence? It became my sharpest weapon. I replayed every moment of my childhood in reverse. Every bedtime story that started with, "When your mother died." Every deflection, every tension in their eyes when I asked about her. I remembered the way Nani would press my head against her chest whenever I cried. How now, it felt more like a cage than comfort. I remembered Nana's strict rules. How I was never allowed to talk to strangers, never allowed to open the door, never allowed to go anywhere alone. At the time, I thought they were just protective. Now, I knew better. They weren't shielding me from the world. They were shielding the world from me, from the truth. I began to watch them like they had always watched me. That Sunday, while Nana was out for his evening walk, I entered their room again. This time, I knew exactly where to look. Behind the wardrobe was a metal locker. Old, rusted, locked. But remember, love had made me obedient. Betrayal made me resourceful. I found the keys tucked in the sewing kit Nani rarely used. When I opened the locker, the dust almost choked me. Inside was a plastic folder, thick, full of papers, documents, court files, hospital records, police complaints. And right there, right in front of me, was the undeniable truth. My mother had been declared mentally unstable, sectioned under a psychiatric act. The signatures? Nana's. Nani's. They had sent her away. Not because she hurt me, not because she wasn't fit, but because she refused to marry the man they chose after my father died. Because she chose to be a single mother. Because she fought. I read every page with trembling hands. I saw her appeals, her letters to the judge, her handwritten pleas saying, "I just want my daughter back. Please. I am her mother. Please." They ignored her. And then, they erased her. I sat on their bed and cried. Not because I was weak, but because the fire was finally awake inside me. They had stolen her voice. They had stolen my life. And for years, they had lived with that theft. Like it was kindness. I didn't scream. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I planned. I started spending hours at the public library after school. I looked up every legal reference on custody, on psychiatric abuse, on forged documents. I began contacting women's shelters through anonymous emails. I started searching government records for a woman named Amira Noor Khan, my mother. And after weeks of nothing, I found her. A rehab center outside the city. She was alive. She was alive. The receptionist on the phone hesitated. "She doesn't get many visitors," she said. "She's quiet. Keeps to herself." My voice cracked. "I'm her daughter." There was silence. Then she whispered, "She talks about you. All the time." I froze. "She says your name like a prayer she was never allowed to finish." I covered my mouth and cried. For the first time, I cried not for myself, but for her. For every birthday she missed. For every school play she never saw. For every tear she couldn't wipe away. I decided I would meet her. But not yet. Because first, I had to finish what they started. And I wouldn't do it with lies. No, I would do it with the truth. The one thing they never gave me. That evening, I sat with Nana as he read the newspaper. I stared at him for a long time. His hands looked older. His skin more fragile than I remembered. But beneath all that, he was still the man who signed her freedom away. He looked up and smiled. "Everything okay, Betty?" I smiled back. So sweetly. He never saw the storm behind my eyes. "Yes, Nana. Everything's perfect." Because soon, everything he loved would begin to crack. And the best part? He'd never see it coming. The day I decided to confront them wasn't loud. It didn't come with thunder or lightning. It came with silence. A silence so thick, so sharp, it could slice skin. I woke up early, earlier than usual. I didn't touch my breakfast. Didn't offer to help Nani with her puja. Didn't ask Nana what article he was reading. Because that morning, I wasn't their granddaughter. I was their reckoning. I stood in the center of the living room, holding the letter in one hand and the diary in the other. Nani, Nana, I said loud enough to stop them both mid-conversation. They turned. Nani's smile faltered. Nana's eyes narrowed. I found something, I said. My real mother wrote it to me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Nani stepped forward. Beta. I'm not your beta, Nani, I snapped. Not anymore. Nana's voice was stern. Where did you find that? Under your bed. In the box you thought I'd never touch. I held up the diary. And this. Her truth. The one you locked away. Their faces crumbled like old walls meeting their first earthquake. She's alive, I said, voice shaking but loud. You told me she died. You made me grieve a woman who is breathing. Why? Nani's hands trembled. We did what we had to. No, I said, stepping closer. You did what was easier. She wasn't well, Nor. Don't say my name like that. Not after what you did to it. Nana rose from his chair, but he looked smaller now. I signed those papers because your mother was dangerous. She was alone, I hissed. And you made sure she stayed that way. Tears welled up in Nani's eyes. She would have ruined you. No, you ruined me. You ruined her. I could feel myself shaking, but I didn't stop. I cried on birthdays thinking she was buried in some cold grave. I hated myself for missing a woman I thought never loved me. And all this time, she was alive. Waiting. Hoping I'd remember her. Their silence was guilt wearing human skin. I dropped the diary on the table. This is who she was. Not crazy. Not unstable. Just a mother who loved her child. Nani sat down, as if her bones finally felt the weight of what she'd done. But I wasn't done. You raised me with values. You taught me honesty. And yet you buried the biggest lie beneath my crib. Nana looked at me with a kind of fear I had never seen in his eyes before. You don't understand the whole story, Nor. You're right, I whispered. I don't. But I'm about to make sure everyone else does. That night, I packed a small bag and left. I didn't tell them where I was going. I didn't have to. They knew. And I wanted them to sit with that terror. That maybe, just maybe, the girl they molded with their lies was now someone they couldn't control. I took a bus to the rehab center. It was on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by trees and silence. Fitting, because that's what she had been locked in all these years. The nurse led me down a quiet hallway. She's in the garden, she whispered. I saw her before she saw me. A woman in a faded shawl, sitting on a bench, head tilted up at the sky. Eyes closed. Smiling at nothing. Or maybe everything. Almira? I said, voice breaking. She turned slowly. Her eyes. My eyes. Her mouth opened, but no words came. I walked toward her like I was walking into a dream. Or maybe she was the dream that had walked into me. She stood. Her hands shook. I reached for them. I'm Nor, I said. She cupped my face with both trembling palms. You're real, she whispered. They said I made you up. No, I choked. You made me strong. She collapsed into my arms and sobbed. Years poured out of her in one broken cry. Years of silence. Of pain. Of being erased. And I let her cry. Because I needed it too. That night, I recorded a video. Her story. Our story. The truth they buried. I uploaded it anonymously. Didn't name names. Didn't scream or accuse. I just let the truth speak. And it did. Loudly. Within a week, it went viral. Thousands of daughters wrote in. Women who were told they were unstable. Children who were raised on lies. Mothers who were punished for being mothers. The world didn't know our names. But Nani and Nana did. They watched the world weep over a story that belonged to them. And they couldn't stop it. Because they had built their kingdom on silence. And now, I had made that silence scream. For weeks, I stayed near the rehab center. Not as a visitor. but as a daughter trying to reclaim time. Amira, my mother, was quiet at first. There were days she barely spoke, her hands trembling too much to even hold a spoon. But she smiled when she saw me. Every single time. I learned her rhythm, her silences. The way she liked her chai lukewarm, not hot. The way she counted the birds outside before she could fall asleep. She told me things in pieces. How she fought to keep me after Baba died. How Nana tried to convince her to marry again to secure my future. How she refused. And how, one day, she woke up in a clinic with doctors telling her she was delusional. That I had never existed. They told me I'd imagined you, she whispered, eyes fixed on the ceiling. That you were a grief-induced hallucination. And for a while, Noor, I believed them. Because it was easier than knowing I'd lost you. I held her hand tighter. They didn't just take you from me, I said. They tried to erase you from yourself. But not anymore. Not while I was here. Not while we were healing. Back at my grandparents' home, silence had become their punishment. People in the neighborhood had seen the video. They didn't know it was about us, not for sure. But rumors. They travel faster than the truth ever can. Nani had stopped attending Bhajan groups. Nana barely looked up when the mailman came by. Their perfect little world? It was crumbling from the inside. And the best part? I hadn't even named them. They knew they were guilty, and that guilt did all the work for me. One afternoon, I returned, not to stay, but to confront the last thread that had yet to snap. I found Nani alone in the kitchen. Cutting vegetables like muscle memory was the only thing keeping her alive. She looked up. Her face was pale, lips trembling. Are you here to take more of our is it? She said quietly. I shook my head. You took her sanity. Her child. Her dignity. And now you're worried about your is it? She said nothing. For once, there was no defense in her eyes. Only exhaustion. I'm not here for revenge, I said. I'm here because I want you to see her. Not the woman you lied about. Not the name you buried. But the mother who still prays for you. Nani turned away, covering her mouth. I can't face her. Yes, I said. You can. Because you didn't just erase her. You erased me too. That weekend, for the first time in 17 years, the woman they said was mad stood outside their door. Amira wore a plain sour. Hair neatly tied. Eyes steady. Not with anger. Not with vengeance. But with truth. When Nana opened the door, he stumbled back like he'd seen a ghost. I'm not here for apologies, she said. I've stopped expecting them. He said nothing. Just looked at her like he was still trying to figure out if she was real. I'm here, she continued, because despite everything, I want you to know, you didn't win. And with that, she turned and walked away. Dignity intact. Voice unshaken. A storm wrapped in silence. I followed behind her, but not before glancing back. Nana had collapsed into the chair. Nani stood by the doorway, hands trembling, tears flowing. They had wanted a silent life. They had destroyed voices to create it. Now, that very silence would echo louder than any scream. With time, my mother began to live again. Not just exist, but live. I helped her apply for a new Aadhaar card. Helped her find work at a school nearby. Watched her smile at children like she was reclaiming every moment she missed with me. We cooked together. Sang old songs. Laughed till midnight some nights. I asked her once, do you hate them? She paused. No, she said. But I've learned to love myself more than I hate them. That was her revenge. Not fire. Not fury. But freedom. I started writing our story. Not as a video this time, but as a book. Titled, The Woman They Forgot. And in its pages, I didn't seek pity. I offered power. To every woman told she was too much. To every mother punished for choosing herself. To every daughter raised on someone else's lies. Our story, my mother's voice, was no longer a secret. It was a scream written in ink. And as the first draft ended, I knew their silence would never hold power again, because the truth had finally learned to roar. The book wasn't even published yet, but just the announcement of it changed everything. A well-known journalist reached out. She'd seen the viral video. She wanted to know more about my mother, about how silence becomes a weapon in families like ours. I hesitated, not because I feared attention, but because I knew once I opened this door, there would be no closing it again. So I did it. For my mother. For the girl I used to be, alone in that room, crying over a mother she was told never existed. The interview aired online, then on local channels, then national ones. Our story became the story. Suddenly, women from across the country came forward. Not just daughters, but mothers, sisters, widows, all with one thing in common. They'd all been erased by someone who claimed to protect them. Nana and Nani couldn't walk outside without eyes following them. Not accusing, just knowing. Knowing what they did. Knowing what they buried. And they hated it. That the world now saw the shadows they tried so hard to hide. But I wasn't done. I created a foundation in my mother's name. For women labeled unstable. For mothers institutionalized for choosing to fight. Because they buried her story thinking no one would ever listen. But now, I'd made sure the whole world was watching. And I wasn't stopping until every lie built on silence was burned by the truth. Just when I thought the truth had all been uncovered, another wound opened. While digging through old hospital records for my foundation, I came across a name, Dr. Rajiv Malhotra, the psychiatrist who had certified my mother as mentally unstable. Except, he never saw her. Not once. His signature was real. But the sessions? Fabricated. A lie bought and signed by the very people I once called family. Nani and Nana hadn't just convinced doctors. They had paid them. To declare my mother insane. To lock her away without question. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated cruelty. I confronted them. One last time. Tell me, I asked. How much does it cost to erase a woman's existence? Nana said nothing. Nani looked at the floor. Cowards to the end. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I simply handed them a copy of the legal notice. Their assets would now fund the foundation in Amira's name. Their legacy? Forever tied to the woman they tried to destroy. And her name, Amira Noor Foundation for Silenced Women, would shine on a plaque outside the very hospital that once locked her away. Because they thought they'd broken her beyond repair. But now, her name would outlive their shame. And me? I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something far more powerful. Justice. The foundation launched with quiet grace. But its impact. Loud. Relentless. Unapologetic. Within months, we helped over 40 women escape wrongful institutionalization. Women who, like Amira, were labeled hysterical simply for crying out against abuse. Women who now had lawyers, counselors, shelter, and most importantly, hope. My mother. She became a speaker. Soft-spoken but fierce. She stood before halls full of strangers, sharing how she survived years of darkness and manipulation. People cried when they heard her story, not just because of the pain, but because of the fire in her eyes that had never fully gone out. I thought I was invisible, she said once during a speech. But my daughter made sure I'd never be forgotten again. I stood in the back, tears in my eyes. The same girl who once doubted her own memories. Now building futures for others. Nana passed away quietly 6 months later. No final words. No confessions. Just silence. The same weapon he once used. Now his only companion. Nani lives alone in that big house now. Curtains drawn. walls echoing with a truth she can't outrun. And me? I published the book. The Woman They Tried to Erase became a bestseller. But more than the sales, it was the letters that mattered. From daughters, from mothers, from women who finally saw themselves in our pain and our fight. Because in the end, they thought they'd written the last chapter of my mother's story. But then, I picked up the pen and made sure the world never forgot her name again.